See. All right, gentlemen,
Yeah.
we are live. I'd like to welcome my guest and friend, Paul Thorpe. I appreciate you coming on, and welcome, Heath. Appreciate you coming on as well. How are you guys?
I'm good. Always a pleasure.
Excellent. Glad to be here.
All right, so we're just going to talk a little bit about the market. I got a couple specific questions for Paul, and then just some stuff I want to hear everybody's opinion on. So the first thing I want to talk about is, are Rolex authorized dealers being fair? And I think I know the answer, but let's hear it.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, anybody. I just don't want to go first.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
either
You know a lot more than I do.
I mean, look, guys, my thoughts on ADs are well documented, and I don't want to labour the point. I think, look, are they being fair? It depends on in which direction you're talking about. If you're talking about distribution, which I take it you're talking about distribution in general, availability. Look, they're businessmen, aren't they? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, they're going to do what suits their own pocket. And I totally get that as a former businessman, and I'm still a businessman. I mean, we're all the time we're working, guys, we're still businessmen, I suppose. So, look, I get where they're coming from. I get that they have difficulties too. They are. I did a podcast with David Khalil the other day, and David was saying, Rolex ADs have stock pushed onto them by Rolex in Geneva. They have to buy a certain amount of stock each month. They don't always want to do that. So look, there are two sides to every coin. Are they fair? In my opinion, no, because I don't think enough genuine watch buyers, people that just want to buy one watch or buy into the brand, they're not able to do so. And I guess the best analogy that I can think of is, I mean, we're big on soccer in the UK. You're big on like basketball, American football, baseball. It's a little bit like you can't get a season ticket to see your favourite team play because all the tourists are getting the tickets, and the locals and the people that live nearby can't get to see their team or their club because the outsiders are kind of getting all the seats. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I do want to mention that I had a offer because I had to get on a list to get the two-tone from a couple local ADs. And I got a phone call, and the offer to me was, we had somebody buy one a couple of months ago. Now they want to return it, and we'll sell it to you used for full retail price. And I said, no, like that's not something I'm willing to do. Do you think, with that being said, do you think, and this goes to Heath too, I'm talking to both of you guys, do you think that only selling the most popular watches to specific people is making the distribution problem worse, because now you're selling to just collectors instead of somebody who just wants to buy one GMP?
Heath, you go first, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a problem of scarcity, So they're going to sell to the people that already have the watches. You have a lot of new people that are coming into this hobby, like myself, that are interested in getting in, and they have no history with these ADs or jewelers or whatever they are. And, it's kind of like funneled the market into one category. Now these people have, 5, 6 Rolexes, so they'll sell one for a profit. Why not? It's a shame, really. I wish they'd do something about it, or, ramp up production or something, but.
Well, it's human nature, isn't it? If someone has the chance to make a quick buck on a watch that they've just bought, sometimes you just can't resist it. I think the thing is, when I was dealing, and people probably get fed up with hearing me say that when I was dealing, it's not that long ago that I stopped, but I used to take extra time when youngsters would enter my store. I've always had a soft spot, and for people that are just getting into the business, just getting into the hobby. And for me, I always wanted to make sure they bought into the right brand, the right watch. And now I see the youngsters not being able to do that. Now, a lot of people in the industry will say, "Oh, we're losing a generation. We're going to skip a generation because the 18 to say 25, 27-year-olds, even if they can afford to buy into the brand, they can't get the watch." And between that age of say 18 and 25, it's not easy for that age group to buy into watches from the secondary market. So to some degree, we're losing a generation of potential watch buyers, and I think that Rolex are potentially losing a generation of of owners, not of fans, because they'll remain fans, not supporters. There's a difference between fans and supporters. Supporters actually use their money to support the brand, and if they can't do that, they can still be fans, but they're not going to be. They're
Right.
not going to be able to become owners, and that for me is a worry because I don't want to lose a generation.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point with losing that generation. People that are supporters, they're not spending that money. They're not going to get. Maybe they do want the Pepsi, and that they're just going to wait on the Pepsi. They don't spend any money in that authorized dealer. They're just going to wait, and then eventually they either buy something else, change their mind, buy into a different brand. I did get a chance to catch your podcast. I thought it was outstanding, and I do want to talk to you about the situation you had with the sales lady. A lot of people, quote unquote, busting your balls over what you did, what her offer was. To be honest, I think her offer was just as bad as the offer I received a while ago with, well, hey, we'll sell you a used one, but you're going to pay full retail price for it because that's what a used one costs, or maybe a little over retail. In your case, it was, well, just come into the store and we'll see how much you're willing to spend. I mean, that's shady business, in my opinion. Heath, what do you think about that before Paul chimes in? I'm sorry, Paul.
This is the first time hearing of it. I missed the podcast, but so what did she exactly say to you, Paul, real quick?
Okay, so basically I rang up asking about the availability of a Starbucks Hulk, a Starbucks Submariner, sorry. And you know, there was lots of innuendo, as in, like, there was no real clear answer. It was come into the store. You don't. It's not about what you spend. It's about how much you spend. It's not necessarily about what you buy. It's how much you buy, etc. So the bottom line is this: is that when I go and buy a loaf of bread from a store, I don't expect the salesman to say, well, look, you can't buy that loaf of bread unless you buy 2 pints of milk and a packet of crisps. And, you know, I want to buy the loaf of bread. That's all I want. You know, I don't want to walk out with 5 bottles of wine. So at the end of the day, the innuendo is that I would certainly not be getting a Submariner unless I was prepared to spend, and probably spend quite big.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's some car salesman tactics, you know, trying to upsell you on the leather and all that stuff. It really, in my opinion, it speaks or makes the industry look bad as a whole when you have AD and stuff like that.
Thank you. I agree with that totally, and that is definitely true.
Yeah, and I feel the same way with the offer I was made. You know, this is one of those things where it's, hey, you know, we got this watch and it's what you wanted. Unless a friend of mine told me, unless it was somebody's famous, you know, unless it was Jack Nicholson bought it for a couple of weeks. Do you want Jack Nicholson's Rolex? All right, maybe you could pay full retail, but I wanted that brand new Rolex buying experience that I didn't have before until I bought that, and that was cool. Something else, and Heath, I think you'll appreciate this. I noticed on that podcast, Paul, that you mentioned about trolls and how you didn't want to delete or block any commenters. You didn't want to block any users from commenting on your channel, but you had to. And I've experienced very similar situation. There's a guy that's kind of borderline cyber stalking me because I don't like a certain brand of watch, and him and his friends, they had to go. You can't sit there and let. I mean, somebody just left a comment. Looks like Kai left a comment. I got my phone kind of far away. Looks like Kai left a comment, said good vibes. That's kind of what this is supposed to be. These are the three of us are fans of the hobby. You're a former dealer. Heath is a newer fan of the hobby, but we're all fans of this hobby. And if you want to break somebody's stones a little bit over something they like, fine, but don't take it. Don't be impolite with the comment. And I 100% back you on that, Paul. 100%.
Guys, I was looking at the private chat, and I've just seen all the comments on the right-hand side of the screen now. So excuse me. Thank you, everyone, for welcoming me. And it's always lovely to speak to you guys out there in the US, because you know I love the US and I love you American people. So it's always an honor for me to come on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Glad to have you.
Absolutely. So, you know, I do want to reiterate one more thing before we continue with that authorized dealer experience. I know I said in the video I made about the authorized dealer experience that, you know, I was expecting a little bit to get my ass kissed a little more. You know, that was only an expectation and not a disappointment. You know, like Paul, you were saying, if you have to oversell somebody on something, then hey, we'll break out the champagne and we'll pretend this is some kind of life-changing experience. At the end of the day, I did try to negotiate a deal for the 2-ton submariner. I did not go in there and say, here's all my money. I went in there and said, hey, what can we do? Can we move this around? And it was a very quick no. And it was a very quick congratulations. And then I left the store, you know. And the fiance is like, wow, you just spent a lot of money.
I mean, look, things have changed, mate, haven't they? I mean, years ago, you know, not too long ago, and this is what we're always saying on my channel, is that, you know, there were discounts available. I mean, I never, ever thought I would hear myself saying to the watch buying public that the best place to buy your brand new Rolex is from an authorized dealer. And the reason I never thought I'd hear myself saying that was because I could get you the same watch for 10%, 15%, 20% off. But Rolex are marketing geniuses. What they've done is they you know, you have to love them or hate them or whatever your feelings towards Rolex. They are out of this world when it comes to marketing, when it comes to doing
insanity.
What they do.
It's insanity. The dealer I talked to, well, I should say the authorized dealer I talked to, one of the sales ladies in there said she's been selling Rolexes for 30 plus years, and she's never ever seen anything like this. I mean, the cases were just empty. There was no solid gold submariners in those cases.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's a $30,000 United States dollar watch. It's unbelievable.
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, we go back just a few short years, and I would get obviously the authorized dealers would never deal with the independents directly, but what they did, they're obviously not doing it now, but what they did is that they would have trusted representatives who would walk into my store and they would basically say, this is what's on offer. I would get a list. There will be sometimes 50, 60 new pieces on there with the discount, with the watch on the left-hand side, the discount on the right-hand side. And even that was sometimes a little bit negotiable. So, you know, the way they've managed to turn every Rolex watch really into a hot model, or virtually every Rolex watch into a hot model, you have to hold your hands up and admire, from a marketing perspective, admire what they're doing. The one question that I would like, and something I've actually already prepared the letter. I'm going to write to Rolex next week, both in the UK and in Geneva, and I'm just going to ask them for their comments and their thoughts on the fact that their brand is now being used as a hostage for people to come. When people come into the stores and they're saying, look, you know, you can have the Rolex, but you've got to buy the Omega, you've got to buy the Breitling or the Bremont. You know, I mean, what do Rolex themselves make of their own brand being used as bait? Because that would be really interesting to know whether they approve of it.
Well, that's a fantastic thing, and you got to keep me posted on if they reply, when they reply, what they say back to you. But with that being said, don't both of you guys kind of agree that Rolex has to be controlling this shortage? They have to know all about it, and they have to kind of say, okay, let's discontinue it and make it a big deal. That thing was selling for 20 grand. Now it's over 20 grand unworn. I did have a commenter say, do you think that the new bluesy with the Hulk-like sunburst dial and the white letters, could it get hyped in the future too? Possibly. It is selling for over retail unworn. I mean, this thing I should say is selling for 17,000 US unworn. It's already a little hyped. Is it going to get Hulk hyped? I don't think so, but maybe. I don't know.
Well, I guess it depends on how long that's around for. You know, if they change it, if they make alteration to the dial, or it could become a collector's item.
So moving back to what we just mentioned, we do think that Rolex knows what they're doing though with the shortage. They're dialing it all back. Yeah.
Okay. But they have way too much interest. You know, the way they market the brand, they're way too in the weeds to not know.
Here's the thing, guys. I mean, I was going to save this for next week, but whilst we're on, we might as well discuss it. You know, I've got a theory, and whether it's going to be accurate or not, I don't know. But I'll put it out there, and only time will tell. The new Oyster Perpetual 41, the 124-300. I think that this is a watch that could potentially be exploding in the future, and I'll tell you for why. The dials, as soon as I saw those dials, I thought, wow. Now, I knew that they were going to be a bit of a Marmite watch. You know, people were either going to love them or they were going to hate them. A lot of people said that they hated the dials But I knew they were going to be popular because Rolex don't produce stuff like that very often. Now, here's a thing. You guys have seen what those watches are selling for. List in the UK is £4,700. What would that be in the US? About
$6,000.
$6,000.
Around
They're selling for what, $12,000?
Good
gosh.
Are they as high as that in the US? You know, they're certainly selling way over list here in the UK. Now, here's the deal. Here's the thing. If Rolex Box really clever, if they discontinue those watches within, I don't think they'd do it in 1 year. I don't think 1 year would be enough, but 2 is a possibility. And if they did discontinue one of, 2 of, all of, who knows? It might be just one color that goes.
Yeah.
But watch that space because it will go absolutely crazy. And I said weeks and weeks ago is that anyone out there with the wherewithal and the capability of doing it, if you can collect a full set, you're sitting on a real gem for the future.
That's yes. And I still can't believe, again, going back to the authorized dealer, I can't believe that you can't go in there and find a steel date just. There's no steel date just. Just the date just you can't get. Whether it's a friend of mine hit me up and he was like, what about, do you think you can get me a blue one with the smooth bezel or the smooth bezel? You think you can get me one at retail? He sent me an eBay link or a Chrono 24 link. I said, maybe, because now that I bought one at AD, everybody wants to work together to go get all these watches. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the dials, even with the new blues, everybody says, oh, the white is easier to read than it's like, okay, it's a very, very minor change, but the collectors are interested. Even when I bought the steel Submariner, I had the 2008 with that engraving on the inner bezel, so to speak. That was a big deal. And it kind of continues to be a big deal, fortunately, for the collection. But that was something I saw. I think if you have a watch problem, as you put it, Paul, I think you notice those little details more than, maybe somebody that collects something different. You just notice that detail. Oh, that's got white on the dial. I want that in the collection.
Yeah.
For sure.
So when you think,
go ahead.
Where do you think the market's go? Sorry, guys. Where do you think the market's going in the US with those Oyster Perpetual 41s continuing upwards?
I think they're going to keep going up.
If it's got Rolex on the dial, it's going up.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything right now, anything Rolex is going to be, even the ladies versions. I just bought the fiance a Rolex for her birthday, and trying to find one, this very specific one that she likes. It's way over retail, and that's a ladies Datejust with the very, very bright pink on the dial. That's going over retail now. So even the ladies are catching on to the watch problem, as Paul puts it. Now, do you
know how they are with shoes?
Yeah, right. So we all agree that we think Rolex is controlling the market. Now, speaking of not Rolex for a minute, because I try to do everything a little different on the channel, try to involve everything. Do you guys agree with me that the new Seiko 5 sports watch, for what you get as far as complications go, is that the best bang per buck for a new collector into the hobby?
What's the list price on it?
I think it's 270, I believe.
Yeah, almost $300.
Okay. I mean, I've got to be honest with you guys. I'll put my, lay my cards on the table. I'm just not qualified to comment on that sort of level watch. I've never bought into that level. What I would say about anyone that wants to start collecting is collect what you can afford, collect what your heart tells you to collect. And, if you get to the point where you need to start worrying about the finances, then that's another thing. But when you're just getting into the hobby, particularly if you're younger, just buy with your heart and enjoy it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I also want to say, anybody watching, and hi to anybody that's commenting and stuff, trying to see you guys. It's a weird setup right here in the game room, but don't if you want to watch and you have your heart set on some kind of watch, whether it's a Submariner, whether it's a Grand Seiko, whatever it is, do not finance a watch. That's a terrible decision with money. Don't finance anything. Make sure you can afford it. Make sure if you finance a watch, you're going to end up paying 3 times the price for it. And then if you finance something like that and you wear it all the time, you're just beating up. I mean, you can get a little. How do I put it? You can get something. I like buying things that I can get something back from. Okay, whether it's a watch or whatever it is, I want to be able to get something back if I need to. But don't finance anything like that.
So yeah, I agree. But to go back to the thing with the 5KX as they're calling it, it's fine. I guess I'm not a big fan of it. I think they made the SKX a worse watch basically, as far as they took away the screw down crown. The water resistance dropped by 100 meters. Of course, yeah, you got the hack and hand winding, but they could have done that with the same old cases and kept the screw down crown. It would have been, I think, a much better watch for the money. Right now, if I'm for a first watch, obviously there's the cheaper Seiko 5s. But like Hamilton, the khaki mechanical, great watch. You're talking the same money, pretty much. So I would probably go that direction. If you're going cheaper, then of course maybe just a regular Seiko 5. If you're not too worried about the water resistance, but
that original SKX, that was amazing especially for that price. That
you mean this one?
Yeah, yes. I mean that one. That's an amazing watch for price. Anything day and date. And I apologize to Paul because he is here. He's like, look, listen, guys,
these plebs.
He's like, listen, he's.
By the way, $500 for this watch now if you want it.
Wow, for the Japanese made ones, $500
for the Japanese SKX original, you're talking $500 with the bracelet. I had a different bracelet on this one, but yeah, $500. So we're selling for 180 2 years ago, which is a little ridiculous. But anyway.
182 years ago for a day and date complication made by Seiko with the Seiko in-house movement. Not bad. For under $200, it's perfect. Maybe the new one isn't the best bang for buck, and that's why we're talking.
Yeah, it's $100 more, and you're losing things.
And you're losing things, right? Paul, let me ask you a question. Tell me about the new watch you bought. I saw that video, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm wearing it tonight. That is
AP.
It's a Bulgari Originale. It's a watch that I came across not too long ago in Selfridges in central London. I tried it on. I went through quite a few of the Bulgari range. I think they've had a strong year, Bulgari, and they're going to do well, I think, in 2021. This is just a watch that I really fancied. It took my eye. I made some inquiries through some friends in the trade. I was able to get, what I consider to be a dealer's discount. So I pushed the button. That's it, really. No
That's
big
nice
story.
Stuff.
It's the way.
Yeah, you people. You can make some calls and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this. What can you do for me?" I don't have quite that luxury yet.
Well, you do, mate, because you can always come through me.
All right. I'll keep that in mind, sir. I know how to get a hold of you.
I'm always willing to help anyone out. I was just looking at some of the comments. I see Mr. Ramos. Sorry, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your first name. Is it Jorge or is it George? I'm not really sure.
Looks like Jorge to me.
I think it's Jorge.
Okay, Jorge. He tried to get a discount on his Air King and didn't. But listen, you asked the right question. Well done. I would always encourage people out there, never be afraid to ask for a discount.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? I mean, you got to ask.
Yeah. I mean, the only time it comes embarrassing or you make yourself look a bit silly is if it's on something really hot. I mean, it's no point in asking. Imagine the dealer's reaction if you asked him for a discount on a Daytona. They're going to laugh about the shop. But anything in my basic rule of thumb is if it's in the shop window, it's up for a discount.
Yeah, if it's just sitting there, absolutely up for a discount. So now, with that being said, okay, what are your guys' feelings on paying over retail for a Rolex that you want, or any other brand of watch you want? Is that something that anybody should do? Is pay over MSRP?
Heath, you go first, mate.
How bad do you want it? And I guess it depends on the watch. I mean, you're talking if it's a Daytona, they're probably still going to keep going up. So yeah, pull the trigger. If it's something like a Datejust, you're going to find deals online with a used one, unless you just have to have a new one. I don't like paying over MSRP. I don't think anybody does, but like I said, it's a case by case situation. But for the most part, no, I wouldn't pay for retail for most watches.
I personally would. I'm just trying to think. I don't ever recall paying over list price for a watch for myself. I've paid over list price for watches from a business perspective. And this is where I always try and be as transparent as I possibly can. Look, you guys know it's no secret. I have dealers that sponsor my channel. They basically pay part of my wages these days, but they know me well enough to say, look, I'll tell the truth. I don't think these watches are worth the money. I don't. Some of the prices have just gone absolutely ballistic, and I can't agree, and I can't give my professional opinion to viewers that I don't believe in myself. I have never ever, as far as I recall, paid over list for a watch for myself that I wanted to buy for myself. I wouldn't want one that much. There are times, and there has been times, and there are times now when, yes, of course, I would pay over list for a watch if there was a profit at the other end of it. But in general, I advise my viewers to try not to get involved in that unless they can A, they can afford it, or B, they know they're going to come out at the other end financially on the right side. If they can afford it, it doesn't matter. And I've got a lot of very wealthy viewers that sometimes say to me, Paul, forget the money. Well, it's all very well for the wealthiest out there, the producer Michaels, etc., to say, don't worry about the money because they haven't got to worry about it. But what about the poor guy that's maybe, he might be a firefighter, he may be you don't know what he's
about
doing.
Me, Paul? Me.
any normal person, any normal person that hasn't got money, the large amounts of disposable income, it matters to at the back end.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that because money on a scale, if you have $10 million and you want a Daytona, then 27,000 isn't a big deal, is it? If you have the disposable income, you want that Daytona because at some point, if you really want that watch, you have to go into the authorized dealer. You're going to have to negotiate with the authorized dealer, get in a list, go buy the engagement ring there, go buy the necklace there or the bracelet or whatever they're selling. You got to spend all that money then to get it. So if it takes 27,000 to get the Daytona and you already have 10 million, then just get the Daytona. Don't worry about all the other stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Who cares? Right. I can't. I have to cater for all viewers with my advice, but I just take it that across the board, in general, the vast majority of the people that watch and want the advice are probably fairly ordinary to middle class people that aspire to own a nice watch but haven't got money to throw away and burn.
Yeah. All right. Next question I have for both of you, and I mean, it is what it is here. What do you think the 32-35 movement is going to hold up to the 31-35? Is it going to be that? Is it going to run that long? Is it going to keep that good a time? Is it going to have no issues, basically?
Heath, do you want to go first?
This is your section here. I'm the Seiko guy. You're the high end guy.
I think it's going to be a long termer. I think it's been successful, and I think it will be there for a very long time. Simple as that.
I had one viewer tell me that he had a problem with this 32-35, sent it in for a service, got it back, still had a problem, has to send it in again. That is one viewer, but that's more viewers I had comment on the 32-35 movement in this watch than I did on the 31-35 movement of the Submariners that I checked out, the Datejust that I checked out in the past. Does that mean long term? Is that going to be a problem? I kind of doubt it if Rolex has their own team of scientists working on all this stuff for years and years, and it's been in the Datejust for a couple of years already. I don't think so, but maybe.
Yeah. When was the last time they got anything badly wrong?
Yeah, I know a lot of people would say when they discontinued the Hulk. Okay, a lot of people would say that.
Except Hulk owners.
It's not, is it? It's from our point of view, we don't want to see it discontinued. But then when you look at the bigger picture, from Rolex's point of view, it's the right thing to do. But I mean, ultimately,
it hypes that brand up.
It hypes the brand up. But look, listen, movement, case, bracelet, whatever. I mean, they're bulletproof, really. So I don't see any issues whatsoever. And in fact, I personally have enjoyed the new movement myself.
Yeah.
Now,
with anything new,
go ahead.
Just real quick, anything new, whether it be in cars, watches, video game consoles, you saw them catching on fire. Like, there's going to be a couple issues, couple kinks to work out. You had one guy say it. Well, that's one out of how many? So, there's going to be issues, but it's very small, minute.
Oh, Heath, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've been used to dealing with, I've got so many stories over the years, and, and don't worry about one person, Chris, taking a watch in, and it's not, because I've had people that have sent back watches to Rolex, not just Rolex, all sorts of manufacturers. They've sent the watch in just because the time says it's time for a service, and they send in a perfect watch, and it comes back and it's not right. So, service-induced errors, service-induced issues aren't uncommon. I often say leave well alone. So yeah, we're gonna hear bad reports here and there, but it's never going to be a problem for me.
Yeah. And the squeaky wheel is the loudest.
Absolutely,
yeah, spot on. Yeah, always
100%. So with that being said, I do want to mention to Paul that I liked your conversation with. Is it Mike? Is that it? Am I forgetting the podcast that you do every week?
David Khalil.
David. Yeah. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. So I love that so much. Mike. Sorry, David. So sorry. But I really liked what you guys said, that the dealers have to stay. The quote unquote gray market has to still be a thing. It can't just go away. If that goes away, then like you said, people like the guy that took his bluesy back, they can't take that back anymore, because then that quote unquote gray thing is over. So I did appreciate that you guys like you, or the former dealer, and David, the current dealer, need to be afloat. I think that's 100% correct.
Definitely. What I want to see in life in general, in the watch dealing world, is I've always been a bit of an underdog guy. All my life, I've always rooted for the underdog, and the underdog today for me is just the ordinary guy in the street that wants to buy into a brand. Usually it's Rolex, and I just want to see them get what they want, because I see the flippers as well. And I've got to be honest with you, and there may be some watching this right now are probably not going to like me for saying this, but boy, their attitude stinks sometimes. They think they're God's gift. They're in with their local AD, they're getting a couple of hot pieces a month, and all of a sudden, they're Billy Big Balls, as we'd say, and they've got the swagger, and they've got the plenty of cash because everything's being done the wrong way. Look, I've got no problem with them making money. Business is business, and they've got families to feed. But their attitude has become distinctly arrogant over the last 12 to 18 months, 2 years. And I'm not a lover of arrogance. I've got to be fair. I want to see ordinary people buy these watches. And I think the way to do that is the way Omega have dealt with the Snoopy in Asia. And that is, look, if you want a watch, which watch do you want? Tell us which watch you want. We will give you a definitive time. The time will vary. The waiting period will vary. So for an example, let's just say it's a blue dial date. Just the maximum wait period might be 12 months. You pay for that watch. Within 12 months, they're going to guarantee that watch is going to be on your wrist. You don't mind waiting the 12 months. If it's a Daytona, it might be 5 years. It might be 2 years for a Submariner, whatever it is. But a definitive maximum wait list time, pay up front. Because the flippers can't pay up front. Mm-hmm. They haven't got the money. They haven't got the wherewithal. They haven't got the pot. Their pot's not big enough. They live off the pot. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So their pot is however big it is. They'll spend that pot. They fill that pot back up again with the flip, and then they go and spend that pot again. So they wouldn't be able to afford to buy 10, 12, 15 watches and wait a year or two for them, because that's not the way they can work.
Joe mentioned in the chat, what's going on, Joe? He mentioned that he would absolutely pay up front for a guaranteed delivery. And if you really want something, then you don't mind the wait. That's just classic delayed gratification. You pay up for something. That's it.
That's it. You enjoy it when it comes as well.
Absolutely. And if you save money for something and buy something and then wait even a year, then that's coming. That's going to be the Christmas present, or that's the birthday present, whatever it is.
Exactly. And it's just such a lovely thing to look forward to. And I think you can then start. My point all along on my channel was this, and I know some people think I'm a miserable so-and-so. I'm not. My point is, let's look after the ordinary people. Let's look after the genuine, ordinary people. And Rolex can do this. They can do so much for the watch buying public. They can reinstate the lost and stolen register. They can do an pay for upfront wait list, and you will solve this problem without, and this is the good part as well for Rolex, without losing any of the hype that's around the brand.
Yes. Yeah. I think
so.
I think you're spot on there. I think people need to appreciate. I think you're right. Rolex needs to appreciate people's delayed gratification and offer that, hey, you want a Daytona, you give us the money and we're going to give it to you in 2 years. Give us 2 years and we'll crank one out for you. And then you got people that already paid into the brand. They become supporters and they patiently wait for that Daytona. They grab that Daytona. Something I do want to ask you guys. I noticed somebody wearing I believe it was a Breitling Super Ocean Heritage. And if he's watching this, what's going on, man? I ran into him at work and I saw this watch he's wearing from a long distance. And it was just so shiny and it was so slick on his wrist. And he told me that it came with all these different straps. And it made a great conversation between the two of us about our being fans of mechanical watches and being fans of high-end watches. This would also have that same reaction to me once I saw it. I was like, wow, that is really sharp, you know. What watches have you guys seen? What watches have you guys seen that you didn't expect to like as much as you liked when you saw it in person?
Heath, you go first.
I got to think about that.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
The Bulgari is one.
Yeah.
This is one of them for me. The two-tone. Yeah. I know a friend. He's got this the first generation of the 6-digit, and I saw it. I was like, wow, that is really sharp. And same with that Breitling. Yeah,
a mutual friend of mine and Chris's. We went to Vegas last year, and I saw he had it was a Tudor. Was it a Black Bay, Chris? Yeah,
he has the. What is
the PFD or PVD?
The PCD coated, the black coated Tudor.
Thought I would hate it when he told me about it. I saw it. It's very nice watch. Extremely nice watch.
Yeah, he told me he wanted I think it's PVD, I believe.
PVD, yeah.
Yeah, he told me he was going to buy a PVD coated one, and I was thinking that's just going to scratch. Like I didn't want to tell him, but I'm like, I don't know about that. And
I'm usually against the coatings.
I saw it and I got to turn that bezel. Oh, that's a slick watch.
Very nice watch. Shout out, Gabe.
Yeah, what's going on, G-Man?
I think for me, when I go out into the shopping malls, some of the watches that kind of take my eye are actually the cheaper brands that, years ago, like cheap cars were pretty crap and good cars were good. But now even the cheapest of cars are well made. They don't break down anymore. And for me, it's kind of similar with watches. I sometimes look at cheaper brands in the mall. I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for some of the Hamilton stuff. And sometimes I look at them and I think, wow, that's a great looking piece for the money, without necessarily opening up the bonnet and looking, opening up the hood and looking at the engine. But ultimately, I think today we're lucky. Watch buyers are lucky. No matter what their budget, really, you can buy a good look for relatively not a lot of money these days.
Even and careful cyber stalker, but even the Invicta Pro Diver, if you only want to spend $60, you get the Seiko made movement. You might get the cheaply made Chinese parts and the questionable assembly, but for $60, that could get you into the mechanical watch hobby. That's really all it takes is $60.
Yeah. I'm a million miles from being a watch snob. I respect everyone's watch. If that's what they want to wear, it's fine with me. I have no issues with anyone what they want to wear or what brands they choose to love.
I'll tell you a watch. It's a cheaper brand that I've ran into. It's it's Young Hans, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's German. They have some pretty good watches about the $1,000, $800 range. They have one. It's I got to pull it up on my second screen over here. It's the Meister hand winding. It's mechanical. For the price, the decoration on the movement on the back and just the look of it, you can't beat it. It's not a Patek, but for $800, very nice watch.
Yeah, most watches aren't Pateks.
You
got the Patek, Audemars Piguet, and Vacheron Constantin. I was telling the lady the other day, those are the big three. And she was like, Rolex isn't in the big three. And I said, no, not really. Like, sadly, no. It is what it is. It's like Paul said, you're a fan of what you're a fan of. I don't appreciate some of the enormous planet-sized watches. I don't appreciate some of the more, like, I'm not a big fan of that rainbow Daytona, but there are people who love the rainbow Daytona and love it. I just don't have to love it personally.
Yeah, mostly rappers.
I think it's the rarity that you tend to appreciate sometimes the rarity as well, and the manufacture. What kind of takes the shine off of some of the more exotic factory set Rolexes are the fact that they're copied quite quickly. In other words, not necessarily copied, but people will take a regular Daytona and put an aftermarket rainbow bezel on it, etc., which kind of like takes the shine off the original. But if you get the original in your hand and you look at it under a glass and you see the way the gems have been set, I mean, they're quite exquisite. And I understand what you're saying, Chris. It's not a watch that I would want to wear, but it's a watch that I could have owned and didn't, and boy, was it a mistake.
Yeah,
A big mistake.
Everybody's got the regrets in the watch world. You know, I remember when
Big mistake.
when I was able to buy my Submariner, I bought the 2008 with the engraved inner bezel, but I also could have bought one of the 6-digit subs. This was in early 2017.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, I can save $1,000 if I buy. And plus, I really didn't like those thicker lugs on those original 6 digits. And I bought the other one. But as far as just a financial perspective, the other ones are worth more now. You know, and I could have got the other one for maybe $1,000 more, $500 more. Yeah. I think mistakes are just part of life, and it is what it is. You know, I am glad that I held off on those 6-digit ones for them to trim the lugs down. I did have the guy from Bluefish Watches, I believe, on here, and he was saying that the 6-digit Submariner was going to have no changes in 2020. And he said, there's no way they're going to change it. It's too hot. It's too popular. And they changed it. And now it's even more hot. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. With that being said, what do you guys think are the 2020 Rolex models, any 2020 Rolex models, are they going to be more highly valued in the future than the 2021 Rolex models due to the pandemic? I don't think so, unless they did something with the serial numbers. But is there a possibility of that? Your opinions?
Only the dials. I mean, for me, history again, it's something that sorry, Heath, cutting across you there, my friend.
You're good.
Dials for me, it's always about dials, Chris, you know, and potential rarities in the market. And history tells us that those OP41s, excuse me, the 1, 2, 4, 300s, history tells us that those dials are going to be hugely sought after in the future. There are 1 or 2 other watches right now that I think are going to do very well in the future, but you are talking big money. Like the Platinum Daytona with the Baguette Diamond Dial is going to be a hot watch in years to come. The same as the Tiger's Eye, or the Eye of the Tiger, whatever you want to call it, Daytona on the Oyster Flex. Huge. That's going to be huge in years to come. If you can buy one of those at list, buy it. Please buy it, and if you don't want it, please sell it to me. You know, so that there are watches out there that are definitely going to be hot in the future, without a question of a doubt. It just depends. What's the future? That's the question.
Dial is, your opinion is the dial kind of sets the tone. Okay,
yeah,
it's all about dial.
Dial sets the tone. Yeah, dial.
Yeah, I think it has less to do with the year. It's less to do with the year. It's more about the things Paul was mentioning.
I agree. I think that the 2020 thing is interesting because of the pandemic, because Rolex did shut down their factory for a few weeks there. But I don't think, and like I said, unless they hid something in the serial number that proves it's a 2020, I tend to agree with both of you. One last thing before I let you guys go. I don't want to keep, I mean, we could talk forever, and everybody knows that. And if you know me, you know I don't shut up. But here's the deal. I do want 2 more questions. Number 1, what is your favorite complication in a mechanical watch that is useful to you day to day? I'll go first and go ahead and say mine is the date. I don't own a mechanical watch that does not have a date feature.
Moon phase.
Okay.
Yeah, date.
100%.
Same.
Date. Okay.
I love a moon phase.
Now that's your favorite complication, period. Okay, what's your favorite complication that's not so useful, right? Do you use the moon phase? You walk around looking at your watch going, all right, okay. See, that's amazing. I was gonna say that's my favorite complication that I probably wouldn't use, but I love that one. That's really cool. I would probably get a the name's flipping. A Jaja Lacoute, or Jaja Lacoute is probably what I would get with the moon.
Jaja.
Jaja. Well, look, listen, between getting the opportunity to have Paul on the show, okay, which is amazing. A little bit, all the espresso I've had today, between Mike and Jaja, I've set the tone for what a live stream should be. Okay, so
you're doing great, buddy. You're doing great.
Oh God, yeah. So there you go. Well, hey, on that, let's wrap it up on that absolutely pleasant note. I do want to thank Paul once again for coming on the broadcast. Heath, big shout out to you for coming on as well, and a big shout out to Mike, aka David, if he's out there watching. I appreciate you. I love your guys' podcast, and we'll try to do this again sometime. Maybe not quite so soon, but let's do it again if you don't mind.
My best wishes to everyone. Take care, guys, out there. All stay safe in the US. And please, God, we'll get back to normal next year, because I want to get out to the States next year and see some of you guys.
Well, that would
Thanks
be
for
amazing.
watching.
Yeah, thank all
My
the
pleasure.
commenters. I appreciate it. I wish I could have shouted you guys out more. So
yeah, thanks, guys. Sorry if we've missed anyone.
Jaja. Yeah, sorry. Oh, man, it's going to keep me laughing for a while. All right, Jeds. Oh, my